Hey, welcome and happy Friday, everyone. If you are new to Fusion IT's live streams and our wonderful events, my name is Maya. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from. I'm so excited to be here today with some wonderful, wonderful gentlemen. I'm pleased to introduce you to Mr. Robert Painter. He is the Senior Vice President of Goldman, Evans, and Trammell. Mr. Painter has over 25 years of experience in the commercial collections and litigation industry, having worked for some of the largest agencies. Throughout his career, he has helped thousands of clients with their collections and legal needs, aiding in the recovery of their past due receivables. Currently, he is collaborating with several Fortune 500 companies, and we are also joined by Ravi Thiru. He is the sales director for Goldman, Evans, and Trammell and is a new valuable addition to the agency that will aid clients with being versed in 4 different languages. So before I hand it over to Mr. Painter, we're going to watch a quick video so you guys can learn more about this incredible company.
Having an issue hearing you, Maya.
Wonderful. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. And now I'd love to introduce you to Mr. Robert Painter. Robert, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Maya, thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here on a Friday to go over collection and litigation services in today's economic downturn. Just a little backstory here. I had a conference with Uday and Ravi probably about 6 or 7 months ago regarding IT serve and the amount of collections that we do within this industry. It's become very clear that this is an industry that is in desperate need of our services. We're what you call a necessary evil. Everybody's owed money right now. So what I want to go over and get into with everybody today is how we can assist you in recovering your receivables, both through collections and litigation. So first and foremost, we are a business-to-business collection recovery agency. So we do not do consumer collections. So we're strictly business-to-business. Any business that owes you money, we will pursue those businesses to collect your receivables. I do want you to know that this is geared around IT staffing. However, we do operate in all industries. We do operate in all 50 states. We do operate internationally. So no matter where your vendor or client may be located, we're able to assist you in recovering those receivables. We're also licensed and bonded and insured in all 50 states. So all bases are covered when you need any collection needs or legal needs to pursue your accounts receivable for your delinquent customers. Maya, if you could take that to the next slide for me, please. Just a little backstory on the company. Maya touch base. I've been in the industry for 25 years. I think it's important to note that my collectors have 15 to 20 plus years of experience In Maya's introduction, she also mentioned that I did work with some of the largest collection agencies out there in the industry today. And with that being said, I have cultivated and brought together a team of highly trained collectors that are able to assist you on a day-by-day basis that are involved in this industry, like I said, to 15 to 20 plus years. That gives them a vast experience in every industry, and especially your industry, dealing with the IT staffing, collections, and receivables. They're very privy and knowledgeable to your contracts, to your MSAs, to all the intricate details that comes into play when we're collecting these receivables on your behalf. So that's an important thing to understand, because there's a lot of companies out there right now that do not have that kind of experience. Their collectors do not have that kind of experience. You might be dealing with agencies that have little to no experience, or some individual sitting in a cubicle somewhere that's the first time ever seeing your paper. That's not the case with our firm. We've been entrenched in IT staffing for the past decade, so we're very skilled in this arena to assist you with these receivables, understand your contracts, and get you paid. With that being said, we're going to go to the next slide here. And this is a quick slide regarding red flags and warning signs. So for anybody on the other end of this conference call, this webinar right now, these are bad debt warning signs that you want to be aware of. If you have constant avoidance of your calls when you're reaching out to your vendors or clients for payments, they're not returning your calls, you're leaving call after call, email after email, that's a red flag. That's a sign. If somebody's not calling you back, that's intentional. They don't want to pay you. If you have invoices that are approaching 65 to 90 days, that is a red flag. That is an issue. Your MSA governs net 45 typically. So if you have approved timesheets, you know that your candidate, you've already paid your candidate out of pocket. If you have those approved timesheets, you can guarantee that the client has probably paid your vendor, and in turn, they're not returning those monies to you. So you need to be very proactive and aware of timing, because that is the one thing that you can control is timing. If you give them too much time and you give them too much rope, you could be at 100% loss. So like I said, we're a necessary evil right now in today's economy. We're here to assist you. In-house procedures, you want to be proactive on your calls, and you want to make sure that you're getting on top of these vendors on a timely basis. You want to make sure that you're making your calls once they breach their terms. If they're 40 days out, 45 days out, 60 days out, you're making your internal calls, you're making your internal demands, and so forth. What I would suggest is, if you have somebody at 65 and 90 days, you make a final demand, a 10-day demand. That's what you want to give them, is 10 days. They're already well beyond the terms of their contract. If you give them that 10-day window and that demand, stick to it. Time and time again, I see too many clients giving a 10-day demand, and yet 20 days goes by and they did not take the necessary steps to engage us. That tells your client that you're not serious about pursuing their money. That tells your client or vendor that they can continue to drag out these invoices as long as they seem fit. A 10-day demand, when that 10 days is up, pull the trigger, get a firm like us involved to start pursuing these receivables. What I also will do for any clients that become a client of the firm is I will do free background checks at 65 days on any balances over $10,000. We all know in your industry, the standard balance is $10,000 and above. So this will be applicable to most, if not all. I will run that free background check. And what that means is I'm going to be able to do a financial background check and look into their background and determine if there's any collections, if there's any litigation, if there's any liens, if there's any judgments, anything like that, that would give you knowledge that you otherwise would not have. You might be dealing with a client that you've been dealing with for 10 or 15 years and you think they're solid. Well, in reality, in the background, they're in collection 7 ways from Sunday. They owe creditors. They're in litigation. These are all things that I'll uncover with the free background check, and I will give you those details free of charge. No money out of pocket. That's proactiveness, and that's identifying your bad customers early on in the game so that we can get you paid. When you want to place an account for collections, like I said, the sweet point is 90 days. Get them out the door. The older those invoices become, the less collectible they become. If you allow invoices to age 1 year, 2 years, your collectability measures decrease substantially. Why did they decrease? Because they owe many other creditors. By the time we become engaged on invoices that are 1 year, there's a line of creditors that we're behind. We're behind a line of creditors that maybe file lawsuits, and there's financial distress there. So the only thing that you could control is timing and getting us engaged at that 90-day window. If it's a little bit beyond that, that's fine. If you're first coming to us for the first time because you're a new client and you have older receivables and you say, wait a minute, my invoices are 1 year old or 2 years old, can you pursue these? Sure, I could pursue them. I'm not going to give you any guarantees. There is no guarantees with collections. But what I can tell you is the collectability factors are going to be greatly diminished. That does not mean that it's not pursuable, and it does not mean that we cannot bring forth a possible settlement in your favor. All that'll be determined as we go through the process of that individual collection and we navigate those waters to determine what's going on with that company. So again, once you have those invoices at those timeframes, that's when you want to consider them red flags, issues, accounts that you need to address, and you need to reach out to a firm like ours to give you assistance. And like I said, I'll do that background check on that vendor for you free, and we'll determine what's going on in the background. Once we make that determination, then we can move forward and we can start pursuing that receivable on your behalf. So again, I'm going to refer to Maya here to take us to any possible questions that she might have or possible questions from the field.
I do. Thank you, Robert. Yes. And if you guys have questions, now is the time. Please drop them in the chat and we will address them. So, Robert, I think you already answered my first question, but just kind of would drive this point home. So my question was, when should we submit a vendor to collections? You're saying 90 days, but I think it kind of depends based on what you're saying on the case. You want to kind of drive that point home for them. 90 days is kind of the end of the spectrum, right? It looks like there's some red flags at 65 days. They're not answering calls. Can you elaborate just a little bit more on that?
You know, like I said, this is outlined in the red flag warning signs, but yet again, I get that question all the time. When is the proper time to turn them over? Like I said, typically your MSA with the IT staffing industry is governed at net 45-day terms. Well, if it's 90 days past due, you're double past your window of the MSA and the terms set forth within that MSA. So by all means, at that time, you need to pull the trigger and get us engaged at that 90-day window.
Right. Makes perfect sense. So my follow-up question to that is, what if they give promises to pay? Right. I think a lot of us have gone through this before. They're like, oh, we're going to pay. I promise. The check is coming. The transfer's coming. How do you deal with that? And how do you navigate that and also the relationship?
Well, from an internal standpoint, to navigate those, and when you're dealing with false promises, if they're promising that they're going to make a payment to you, I would lock down a check number. I would have them send me a copy of the check. I would maybe even send them FedEx to pick up the check so I know that there's a tracking number, so I know that there's a check en route. I don't want clients to sit back and just depend on a false promise that I'm going to pay you next week. Well, how many times are they giving you that promise? Probably a half a dozen times. And that week comes and your check doesn't arrive. So you really want to lock them down and say, okay, if you're paying me next week, I'm more than happy to send FedEx myself, or please send me a UPS slip. If you need me to post date the check and hold it internally, I could do that. But you really need to lock them down and get some proof that they're going to follow through with that payment. If they don't, like I said, it's an empty promise. It's a false promise. You're getting the same promise time and time again that I'm going to get you paid next week or in 2 weeks from now. And when that time comes, you don't have your payment. So you've already given them additional time over and over again. And it's time to call their bluff, and it's time to say enough's enough. I need to protect my bottom line and I need to be paid.
Wonderful. It makes total sense to me, Robert. One additional question, actually. If this is happening in your relationship, what is your recommendation moving forward? Because if getting payment is so difficult with someone, how do you move forward with this particular company, right? How do you navigate that moving forward?
Well, that's going to be an internal business decision that you need to make. But from where I sit, if you have a customer that's not paying you and they're a consistent issue with extracting payments from them, it might not be somebody that you want to do business with. Right. It's called a bad business. It's called you entered into a bad contract, and it's the cost of doing business. You have to chalk that up to a loss, and hopefully we can get in there and make the recovery of your monies. And even when we do so, I could tell you that so many times over, somebody places somebody into collections, and unfortunately, they pay off their balance, or to say, fortunately, they do pay off their balance, but you decide to enter into a contract with them again, and you go down the road again, and you do business with them again, and guess what? They default again. Okay, with 1 strike, 2 strikes, maybe 3 strikes, you're out. But again, that's an internal call on your end. And on my side, that's somebody that you might not want to do business with, given that they're repetitively breaking promises, not following through with their payments, and you don't want to end up in a situation where you're just not going to be paid and you have to chase somebody to get paid. You shouldn't have to chase your clients to get paid.
I agree. Very well said. We do have a comment from Zachary. I don't think it's a question. I think it's a comment. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it up here, though. Zachary said, I got a client to finally pay me after leaving a 1-star review and telling everyone online how shady they are taking advantage of a small business. Was paid the next. Any thoughts on that, Robert, before we move on?
Okay, I got a client finally pay me after leaving a 1-star review and telling everyone online shady are taking advantage of small business. So they weren't being paid. Zachary posted a comment. I got him paid. I mean, I don't see any problem with that, as long as you're not disclosing, who they are and putting their name out there. For the most part, you could get some slack or kickback from that. But if it got you paid, it got you paid. But not all the time is somebody as fortunate as Zachary to get paid with posting someone like that, because typically a debtor doesn't care what's posted about them. Typically a debtor doesn't care about their credit, and they might be just on a financial downturn that they're not going to be able to recover from.
Which is why it's beneficial to contractor services. So we'll move on to the next slide if that's okay with you, Robert. And again, if you guys have questions, please feel free to drop them into the comments for us.
Please.
Okay.
Okay, so right here is just our internal process and timeframes. And as you can see on the screen, it's all laid out. But first and foremost, what happens is when you engage Goldman, Evans, and Trammell, we're not like a lot of other firms. When you get the account over to us, we are going to engage within 15 minutes of placement. We are not the type of firm that sits back and waits. We're going to start immediate financials to find out what we're dealing with. We're going to find out the financial background of that company and the stability of that company. And we're going to move forward with immediate emails, calls, and letter demands. Like I said, we don't sit back and wait. You've already waited 90. You've already waited 120, 150 a year to get paid. I'm not here to waste more time. I need to get that money recovered for you and back to your bottom line as fast as possible. So it's very important to understand that we contact within 15 minutes. A lot of times, I have clients place a file with me, and then 30 or 40 minutes later, an hour later, the next day, they say, oh, Robert, can you hold that? Can you please not proceed on that case? Sorry, we've already engaged. The reason why you're receiving a call at this point is because they received our call or they received our legal demand, and now they're worried because they're going to be sued, and they don't want to be sued, so they're running back to the client to take care of the situation. But guess what? They're only buying time. If you reinsert yourself into that equation and you start talking to them again, that only delays the process. That only hinders everything that we just did on your behalf, and that causes a problem. So like I said, 15 minutes. We're going to start with letters, emails, and calls to get those demands out. Typically, a client's going to ask me, well, Robert, how long is that going to take to get paid? The answer to that question is I don't know. Typically 30 days we can get an account recovered. But based on the financials of that company, based on what I'm dealing with, it may take a heck of a lot longer. You don't know until we become engaged. I don't have a crystal ball to tell you, hey, I'm going to get this paid next week. We need to do the financials. We need to make calls. We need to determine if there's disputes or reasons for non-payment, or if they're just so financially upside down that we have to extract, installments or settlements, things like that. So, that's one thing to be very cautious of and keep in the back of your mind, that, it does take time with these collections, but on average, we can get things mostly resolved within that 30-day time frame, as long as you're engaging me at the right time. That time is important. That's crucial. 90 days. If you waited 1 year or 2 years and you expect to be paid tomorrow, I can tell you that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So collectability is determined as we navigate those waters. Another big aspect of the firm that we send out on files that are over $10,000, when warranted, if they are not going to respond to our internal demands, our calls, our emails, all of those things. I will send out a private investigator to their place of business or possibly to their home to serve them in person. If they want to avoid us, I will send somebody to your place of business or to your home, take pictures of your establishment, and serve you with a notice that you are going to be sued or you are being pursued by Goldman Sachs and Trammell on behalf of the client. So that is a free service, and that's something that I extend because a private investigator goes a long way. Not a lot of firms will do that. We will do that to get you paid. Like I said, every case is unique and on its own. Don't know what's going on with that individual client or customer until we get involved, until we start to peel back the layers of that onion to find out really what's going on. Okay. Updates as we go through this process. When will you be updated? Well, there's two ways that you're going to be updated. One is when I reach out to you, I'll let you know what we've uncovered. As soon as we make positive contact, as soon as I get positive feedback, as soon as we get some type of response from that client or that debtor, I should say, then I'm going to be giving you that feedback. If you're not hearing from me, that's because we're in the trenches. We're still trying to reach them. Maybe we're doing skip tracing. Maybe we're searching them out at their home. They're not answering their calls. So if you're not hearing from me, it does not mean we're not doing our job. Keep in mind, these collectors do not get paid unless you get paid. So everything they do on a day-to-day basis is 100% contingent on recovery. So we will update you as updates come in. If you have a request for an update, you can feel free to reach out to myself or Ravi that's on this call, and you'll get an update the same day via email. A lot of our clients deal with firms that they deal with where they're left in the wind. They don't know what's going on with their file. They don't have an update, and they're constantly wondering what's going on. It's not going to happen here. You ask me for a request, you're going to get a response the same day. Once you do place an account into collections, one very important thing is you don't want to stay in contact with these clients and vendors. You want to take yourself out of that equation. Do not reinsert yourself in that equation. You gave the case to us. They leave the ball in our court. You let us do what we do best, and that is to get you paid. If you reinsert yourself into that equation, like I said, it's going to hinder the process. It's going to take the teeth out of the alligator, and everything we did up to that point is going to be moot because they think they're going to deal with you once again, and we do not want them thinking that they could deal with you again. So you don't want to stay in contact with these vendors. As far as the payments and things, when we recover payments here at the firm, if we recover them here, then your payments will be notified on a daily basis. You get notifications from my team, my assistants, that we received a payment on your behalf. So those notices go out on a daily basis. If you receive a payment at your office, please advise us that we simply bill you for our contingency rate associated with that collection. Okay, so that's that'll be notified on a daily basis to you. Let me see if I missed anything here, and I might open this up to some questions. The process in itself, like I said, we go through a 3-tier process. You're going to get the benefit of the internal collections, 1 collector, 2 collector, 3 collectors, in-house pre-legal, and outside counsel. So we have all your bases covered. Every case is going to be touched by 3 hands. You will get the benefit of in-house pre-legal talk-offs. You will get the benefit of local counsel in that jurisdiction if you choose to engage and move forward. I will advise you with the case is suit worthy. You don't have to go looking for an attorney. I have attorneys in all jurisdictions to help you and assist you and carry out litigation. And unfortunately, some people just need to be sued. A lot of them get resolved internally, but some people just need to be sued. And that just is a process that I'll walk you through, hold your hand through, and let you know as we go through that process and the legal process, because it is cumbersome. There is a lot of variables. There is a lot of moving parts to that, but that is an area of expertise that we have as well to assist you. So I might open up the floor here for some questions, refer that to Maya, and possibly any questions that she might have for right now.
Yeah, Robert, I definitely do. So my first question for you is, can you collect in all states across the US, and are you also international? How does that work?
Yes, all states, all 50 states and international. So it doesn't matter where they're located. They could be in Dubai, they could be in India, they could be in South America, they could be in Canada. It doesn't matter where they're located. We can assist you with the collections.
Wonderful. So you touched on this just a little bit, but let's drive this home. What are the upfront costs? So if somebody calls you, needs your services, what are you charging upfront for that, Robert? Because, unfortunately, you're already out money, right? This is a frustrating process, and you're really taking this off folks' plates, right? So what is the upfront cost for folks if they need your service?
Well, that's the beautiful news. There's no upfront cost, no charge upfront, no retainer, no hourly rate, nothing of that sort. I can tell you right now, if you go to a law firm right out the gate, you're going to get charged a retainer, or you're going to get charged hourly, or you're going to get charged for them just to engage on the file. We're 100% contingent on recovery. So what that means to you is no money's out of pocket. And as long as your invoices are less than 1 year old, it would be 15% of whatever's recovered, not of the principal sum, only of the recovery amount. If those invoices are greater than 1 year old, then it would be 20%. So you have a 15% rate and a 20% rate. I know that your industry doesn't have a big margin of play, but at the end of the day, if you have somebody not paying you, what's better? Weigh your risks, 100% loss or a 15% loss or a 20% loss. If you give them too much rope and you wait 1 year or 2 years, there's a high likelihood you're at 100% loss. So at the end of the day, it's much better to protect your bottom line. Understand that you might have entered into a bad business contract. It's the price of doing business, and you might take a 15% loss, but that's certainly better than 100% loss. The only time that you would see out of pocket is if we have to litigate. Again, my attorneys are 100% contingent on recovery. No monies to my attorneys. The only thing you're liable for are court costs and filing fees. So depending on the jurisdiction, that could be anywhere from $500 to $750. And once again, those are court costs. Those aren't anything other than that. We do not advance court costs for obvious reasons, but that's what it costs to get it in the court. Once we have an attorney engaged, he's still 100% contingent. So he's going to court on your behalf. He's doing the filings on your behalf. He's going to do everything he has to do in the legal jurisdiction to get you judgments, so forth on those files. He's proceeding at 33.3%. If that attorney goes through his whole legal process, and at the end of the day, that company went out of business, or that company bankrupted, or we got a judgment that's uncollectible, you don't owe anything else. That means that attorney spent the past year in litigation and going to court and doing everything on your behalf. And if he's not successful in the recovery of that money, you don't pay anything. So the beautiful thing is here, folks, you have no risk out of pocket. No money's up front except for the court costs and filing fees.
Wonderful. Thank you, Robert. And just as a reminder, if you have questions for Robert, feel free to drop them in the comments and we will bring them up on the screen and Robert will answer them for you. So Robert, you kind of already answered one of my questions about, I was going to ask you if you had attorneys, do you litigate? So you do, right? So you have a team that you work with, and once again, no upfront cost. And I agree with you. It makes total sense. Getting 85%, right, versus zero is a win, right? And then if you have to litigate, that might look a little bit different. But it sounds like, based on what you were sharing, yes, you do have attorneys you work with, and yes, you will go to litigation as well if that's necessary.
Absolutely. All the attorneys that I work with are typically attorneys that I work with on a consistent basis. These are attorneys that I have relationships that go back 20 plus years, that have been working with me hand in hand on cases time and time again. They're all through the Commercial Law League of America, so they're all certified. And these are all attorneys, like I said, that we consistently do business with on a daily basis for the unfortunate circumstances of litigation. Then when it becomes necessary and dire to move forward with litigation, I'll navigate those waters. There's not a lot of things that you have to worry about. That's even a bigger benefit to you. You're not going to have to worry about going to court. You're not going to have to worry about being a witness. In very rare circumstances, maybe if the case goes to trial, sure. But 98% of the time, there's nothing that you need to do. We're going to do all the legwork. The attorneys are going to do all the legwork, and we're going to keep you updated through that legal process as we go through that process. And, one thing that is crucial for everybody to understand too, right now in this economic climate, a legal case could take 1 to 3 years. That's just the facts. Court systems are back up. The dockets are backed up. The attorneys need to get the dockets on the judge's desk. They need to get them to trial. If you have opposing counsel on the other end throwing up motions and delays, all these things go into the process of this litigation. So once again, I mean, this attorney is doing all these things for you, and he does not get paid a dime unless you get paid.
That's a win-win, definitely. Thanks for shedding a little more light on that, Robert. So I just want to go back. You did touch on this, but just want to drive this question home. What is the time frame in recovering the collection file? So what does that look like? Again, you did touch on this, but just want to make sure that everyone's very clear about what this timeline can look like.
Yeah, exactly. Because even though I touch base on it, it always comes up.
Yeah.
The first thing that happens when a new client comes in, they're going to say, Robert, I have a file. This is how much they owe me. This is who they are. How long is it going to take to collect it? Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you. I can tell you in most circumstances if I know who that debtor is, because my database has that much reach that I could tell you if they're already in collections or litigation. And that'll give me a very good idea as to what you can expect. But if there's somebody new to the firm and I'm not privy as to who they are or if we've collected from them, then like I said, we've got to engage. We've got to do the financials. We've got to see how they respond. We've got to see if there's financial distress, reasons for non-payment, disputes, things of that nature that we have to address. So relatively soon as we can get somebody to take that call, answer our questions, give us some feedback, as soon as I have those details, I'll be able to share those with you. Like I said, I keep you up to date as soon as I have any promising news on the file itself.
Wonderful, Robert. And that was another question I had. I think you answered it perfectly. Like, how long does this process take? Like, what does this look like? And I think you covered that really well already, because I'm sure, again, when clients come to you, they're like, okay, here's everything. When am I getting paid? When can I expect this? And every case is unique.
Yeah, everybody wants to get their money, and I can understand that. They
Totally.
want to be paid now. And my job is to get you paid as fast as I possibly can.
Absolutely. So this is a really great question. And again, if you guys have questions, drop them into the chat. I will share them with Robert and we will make sure they are addressed. Now is the time. So can we charge the client for collection fees or legal fees? Like, are we able to offset the cost that way? Or can you share a little bit about that with us?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I get that presented all the time. And unfortunately, in the world of IT staffing, you are governed by a contract that is not your own. You're entering in a contract of your client or vendor, and that vendor is not going to protect you against collection fees or legal fees. So unless you signed your own MSA, and unless your MSA that you created has it outlined in the terms and conditions that they are liable for court costs and filing fees, it's not going to be collectible. Does it mean that we don't take a stab at it? We always add the collection fees to our files. We always use those as leverage. But at the end of the day, when push comes to shove in a legal arena, it would not stand up unless it is set forth in the terms and conditions of the MSA that was signed.
That makes sense.
Or a credit application if one is carried.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, so I think we're going to move forward, but if you guys have questions, again, feel free to drop them into the comments. Robert, I'm going to move forward if you're okay with that.
Yes. Okay, so free added value when you are a client of the firms. Like I said, I'm going to do a free credit rating service. So what that means is once you become a client, I can run free credit reports, and that'll give us a free credit report that will be supplied to you so we know what we're dealing with. Again, these are not on the front end. These are for existing clients. It costs us money to run these credit reports. But if you are a client of mine and maybe you're entering into a large contract and you have a concern about entering into that large contract, I'll run a free credit report for you. We'll see what their credit status is. If it's a horrible credit rating, well, that gives you an answer right there. Maybe you don't want to enter into that contract. Maybe you want to cut back the terms. Maybe you don't want to take the risk. But that free credit report is going to give you that ability to navigate those waters if you don't already have a credit report. The next big thing, like I said, is a free on-site private investigator. We send people to the door when it's applicable. We have to determine that they're there, that they have an office. Unfortunately, with a lot of the IT staffing clientele, these companies have virtual offices. It's very hard to serve somebody at a virtual office. We cannot serve a virtual office. We have to find a freestanding office, or if the balance is large enough, I will go as far as serving them at their home. Okay, so we could serve them at their home. And guess what? It's really going to jar them. They're going to understand that they can't hide behind that phone or behind that email for much longer because we're on to them. We know where you live. We're going to serve you in person. free credit analysis report, free credit reporting analysis, kind of the same thing. If you have something you want us to take a look at as far as a credit report or something of that sort, I have no problem doing that. That wouldn't be an issue. And then the suit costs and free litigation, we went over that. The litigation aspect of it's free. The only costs up front are your court costs and filing fees for that aspect of litigation. What I will add to this whole conversation is right now in this economy, we're in a very tight economic crunch. Okay. There's a lot of turmoil. There's a lot of financial distress in small companies. A lot of companies have cash flow issues. They're having trouble staying afloat. Well, guess what? Instead of them going to look for a loan, look at your receivables. There's your money. If you've got those receivables sitting out there, that's liquidity that you could collect. There's no reason that these people should owe you for 1 year or 2 years because they're utilizing you as their financial institution. That's exactly what they're doing. I'll give you an example. Just yesterday, I ran a credit report on somebody that owes one of my clients several hundreds of thousands of dollars. We couldn't serve him at his office. We served him at his home to find out that he's living in a $2 million mansion with a Maserati in the driveway, a BMW in the driveway, all these exotic cars. Guess how he's getting those things? He's using clients' monies to float his financial freedom in his personal life and so forth. So instead of going to look for a loan, look at your receivables. That's money that you outlaid. That's money that you already paid your candidates. That's hard work that you already did. There's no reason that somebody shouldn't be paying you on time. If they are not paying you on time, they're doing it purposely, and they're doing it in most cases for a reason. And that is to retain as much cash as they can while you suffer trying to keep your own business afloat while carrying those receivables. There's just no need for it. You need to address those receivables, and you need to do it timely.
Robert, I have a quick question about this particular slide and what we've covered. Just to clarify, so for your first point at the top, the free quick credit rating service, is this something that you can do proactively if someone wants to retain your services and they're thinking about going into business or a contract with someone? Is this a proactive thing you can do as well, or is this typically after you've gone and had a contract? And now you're like, okay, I want this analysis. How does that work when engaging with you and your team?
Typically, when I run the free credit reports, they have to be an existing client. I need to have an existing client because it costs us money to run these reports.
Absolutely.
If you're already a client of mine, and like I said, if you're entering into a big contract and you're concerned and you want to see what's going on with that company at that point, you can reach out to me and I'll run a free credit report and I'll send that free credit report to you so you can take a look at it and you have that knowledge as to what their credit rating is.
Wonderful. I just wanted to clarify that. And another benefit of using your services and being an existing client. Fabulous. Yes. Okay. Again, if you guys have questions for Robert, feel free to drop them into the chat. We're going to go to questions in just a moment. But right now, we're going to look at some of the companies there are so many that you have worked with, Robert. So I'm going to move through these slides, and anything you want to add about these particular companies that you've worked with. There are so many, which it's wonderful to see your experience in this area. It's just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and on a side note, the reason why we threw up these, and this is just a partial list. This is by no means our full list of clients within IT staffing. These are just some of the companies that we represent and that utilize us on a consistent basis to assist them with their receivables. So being in IT staffing, a lot of you might recognize some of these names. And if you recognize them, great, reach out to them, ask them about our services, because these are repeat customers that come back to us to assist us with their receivables. And we've had great success for these clients in recovering these receivables, whether it be through collections or whether it be litigation. So I wanted to have the slides available for everybody just for visual purposes so they could see just some of the companies that we are representing in the IT staffing arena.
Wonderful. And there's a lot. You have a lot of experience.
Yeah, these are just some of them. Like I said, I mean, there's thousands of clients in IT staffing. Like I said, we're involved in every industry that you could think of, as long as it's business to business. But again, this webinar is geared to IT staffing and the IT staffing community because of our vast experience over the past decade. I think we've become the top tier #1 agency out there to assist these IT staffing clientele. And I could tell you on a daily basis, I have new clients reaching out to me every day, just a lot of times just word of mouth. These customers that you see on your screen are going to refer me to other clients that they're friends with or business partners with that are having the same issues.
Absolutely. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Robert. Hello, greetings. Hi, everyone. All right, we're going to go to questions now, Robert, if there's anything else you want to add before questions. So get in the comments, guys. Ask your questions. Before we go to questions, though, this is the contact information for Goldman, Evans, and Trammell. And this is for Robert. You can see Robert on the left-hand side. You can see Ravi on the right-hand side. We have their phone number, email, website. Reach out to them if you need their assistance. They are happy to help you. And at this time, we're going to go ahead and take questions. If you guys have some additional questions, please drop them in the chat. We will share. This is your chance and your time to chat with Robert and ask any questions you have about anything that he's presented, but also any questions you have about the company or what they do or how they could assist you. So now is your time. I'm going to flip back to our question slide. So just a reminder, this is time for questions about anything that we've covered or anything that you would like to ask Robert about his services. Robert, Ravi, anything else you want to add while we're waiting for questions to come in?
Okay. So thanks, Maya. Thanks, Robert. One question would like to ask you about the international clients and how is the presence?
As far as assisting them with collections in international regions?
Yes.
Like I said, I mean, no matter where they are, we can get to them. So they could be located anywhere. If you're owed the money and you're owed receivables and invoices, we have a specific division of our company that deals with the international collections because those tend to be a bit more tedious and cumbersome and need to be handled in a different way. But by all means, are pursuable if you're owed the monies.
Thanks, Robert.
So, I mean, like I said, the main purpose of this is cash flow, and that's what everybody's looking for right now is cash flow. And this is the way to get yourself cash flow is to go after these receivables and after these open invoices and address them. Don't let them continue to age because if you wait too long and I become engaged too late, then we can both be at 100% loss. And that's not something I want to see. I want to be successful for my clients. And what I tell them is I'm only as good as your internal process. If your internal process is giving them 3 years or 2 years or a year to pay their invoices, well, that's going to reflect poorly on me because I'm becoming engaged way too late in the game. I'm going to become engaged 1 year later and I'm going to be behind a line of 10 other creditors on an uphill battle. And that uphill battle we tend to lose because there's too financially distressed that we're not able to do anything once we become engaged that late in the game.
Yeah. So, Robert, I have one more question. Like, this is something I have been hearing from different clients as I keep interacting. So, does this collections happen only during the bad times or like during recessions? Or is it like even when the market is good? Or what's your experience?
I could tell you that we're busy every day in and day out, and there's always the need for collections. Like I said, we're a necessary evil. People don't pay their bills, and if they're not going to pay you voluntarily, you need to look to a third source, and that third source is someone like us to get you paid. And that third source is a valuable source like us that does not charge you out of pocket or upfront fees. So it is consistent. It is all the time, but especially right now, it is even more dire. The out of businesses, the bankruptcies, the financial distress is on the rise. The same client that owes you money, anybody on the other end of this call, owes many others. It's a trend where there's smoke, there's fire. Where they owe one, they owe many, and that's just the unfortunate reality of doing business. And right now, in these economic downturns, it's just getting it's getting worse. And the out of businesses and bankruptcies, I'm seeing more and more frequently. And once they close those doors, and once they file bankruptcy, we don't have a chance of recovery.
Got it. And how does this free credit check help the clients?
Well, the free background check helps the clients because if they are somebody that's 60 days past due or 65 days past due for you, and I run that background check, and we run them at that point, and we find out they're bad with several other creditors or they're in litigation, you're not going to give them more time. You're going to make your final demand earlier. You're going to get that final demand out the door and get that set at 10 days and get us engaged earlier. Or you might just decide, because of my findings, that we engage immediately. The sooner we engage, the better chances we are to make that client a priority and extract those monies to get them paid.
Great. And one last question from my side, like, what is the biggest challenges we have solved, like the big tickets or to our clients?
The biggest challenges?
Yeah.
Meaning?
I mean, what was the best value that we could create? Like, did we handle, like, I mean, a range of $2 million worth of collections, 5 million?
Well, I mean, the collections in itself, the balances can range anywhere from 500 to multi-million-dollar claims. So, we're handling claims from 500 to multi-million-dollar claims, and we've had success on all those balances, depending on what the client's owed.
So thank you, Ravi. Great questions. Robert, we do have some questions coming in. This is from Jeffrey Rust. Hi, Jeffrey. Robert, what is your business model? Flat fee or percentage? We did touch on this earlier, but do you want to read for Jeffrey, Robert?
It's percentage based, Jeffrey. So if your invoices are less than 1 year old, it's 15%. If they're greater than 1 year, they're 20% contingent on recovery. Nothing out of pocket, no money's up front, no retainer, no hourly rates, nothing like that. So if my guys and my team go out there and work on your case for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever it may be, if we don't turn $1, you do not pay.
Wonderful. Hopefully that answers your question, Jeffrey. If you guys have additional questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. Robert will be happy to answer them. While we're waiting for a few more questions to come in, Robert, just another note that we do want to drive home to. We are focusing on IT staffing today, but can you tell us a little bit about some of the other industries that you have worked in? Healthcare, manufacturing, construction. I know there's so many that you also support for those folks watching too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all industries. It could be, like I said, it could be construction, through healthcare, through insurance, to aviation. I mean, you name it, we've touched every industry that you could think of. So as long as that's a business-to-business debt, then we are here to assist you and assist you in the recovery of those receivables. Healthcare is a big arena that we're in. There's a lot of DME practices that we represent, some of the largest DMEs out there today, durable medical equipment companies. Like I said, we're very versed in the IT staffing arena. Just anything where business to business transactions have taken place and invoices are due.
Perfect. So just one follow-up question to that, Robert. Is any business, type of business, I should say, so any silo, any type of business, off limits, or any B2B, you're good to go, you can help?
Any B2B, we're good to go.
Perfect.
I would just say that the balances have to be $500 or greater.
Wanted you to touch on that. Perfect. So $500 or greater, B2B, any type of business.
Correct. And don't have the misconception because you're owed $100,000 that you need to go to an attorney right out the gate. That's a big misconception. There's no reason to go straight to an attorney right out the gate. You want to go to a firm such as ours because we're able to get these things resolved in a fast, timely manner. A law firm's going to send out a demand letter and the initial intake of that claim, and it's going to give them 30 days to respond to that demand they sent. If they don't respond to that demand within that 30 to 35-day window, they're then going to commence litigation. Once they commence litigation, you're talking 1 to 3 years. Do you really want to be caught in a legal process for 1 to 3 years? Not a lot of people do, and you don't want to spend those kind of monies. So for a fast, effective turnaround, you come through me. If we can't get it done with a fast, effective turnaround, then I have the attorneys to represent you in those jurisdictions. You don't have to take the time to search them out. I could just go ahead and move the case straight to litigation in that jurisdiction once the client approves it.
I think that's a huge benefit too, Robert, because like you said, going straight to an attorney, it might be a very long process and you may not even have to engage that. But the wonderful thing about working with you is you do have those resources in the event that you do need to have attorneys or litigation. So it's a win-win on both sides. Wonderful. I don't see any other questions at this point. Robert, Ravi, anything else you want to add? Of course, we have your contact information up on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to Robert or Ravi if you need their services. They would love to assist you and are extremely successful in this area. Robert, Ravi, anything else you want to add before we close out today?
No, that would cover it. I would just say that any of my clients know that they get expedited responses, they get expedited updates. They're able to reach me on my cell. I take calls at night. I take calls after hours. I take calls whenever they come in. Do I sleep? Sure. But I'm here to represent my clients. I'm here to get them paid. And that's the goal. And everybody has a financial crunch right now. And we need to be out here to assist you and get you the monies that you're rightfully due.
Absolutely. Yes, Robert, please do get some rest from time to time. But I do understand, and I empathize with that because, when we're owed money, that keeps us up at night. So it's great to know that you're always there to take the call and assist your clients. I know you have a lot of really happy clients. We reviewed them earlier. And that's just a few of them that we looked at. So I want to thank both Robert and Ravi for being here today. Thank you guys so much. Please reach out to them. Their contact information is here. And again, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you on our next event. Thank you again, Robert, Ravi. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, team. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks all.
Take care.